Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's topic on Athena's Paranormal Mysteries is a really exciting one for me. It's about all the hauntings that I've personally experienced, and I wouldn't so much say hauntings because I feel like if you say hauntings it means like your family was you or your family was being bombarded with like spiritual activity, whether it was demonic or ghost like for a period of time. I feel like that's what a haunting is. Not all of my cases were hauntings. I think I had maybe one haunting in one of my houses, maybe two. I would say maybe two. But other instances were just an event that happened, whether it was in my house or in a house that I went to or another country, what have you. So I'm going to be talking to you guys all about those experiences, and I'm super excited. I know during the time when these things were happening to me, obviously when you're being haunted or really scary things are happening and you can't sleep and like you wake up at like 3 in the morning and you have scary things happening to you, it's not fun at the time. But you guys, I love talking about this topic so much, you have no idea. Just anything paranormal just gets me excited, but particularly when I talk to people about the experiences I've had, I love it. So let's get right into it. But before we do, if you guys could hit the subscribe button, that would help me out so much. I am a new channel and I would love to grow. I would love to continue making content, which I'm going to do anyways, even if you don't subscribe, because I love talking about this topic. But if you subscribe, it'll be even better. So let's get right into it. So I remember I was watching Bring It On the TV. So now it was on TV by then. How old was I? Okay, if it was on TV by then, that means it had already come into theaters and then it came on television. And remember back then, like it took so long for it to come on the TV. First, it would basically come on the theaters and then it would have to go to pay-per-view. And then, remember pay-per-view? And then, it would come from pay-per-view onto the telly. So, I said telly like as if I'm British. Onto the television. So I feel like, how old was I? Was I in grade 7, grade 8? You know what? I think I was in grade 8. I think I was about 13 years old at the time. I'm pretty sure you guys are like, okay, like, freaking forget it. Like, we don't care how old you were. Just tell us the damn story already. I'm sorry I'm rambling. Okay, I was 13 years old at the time. And so I'm sitting on my mom's bed. My mom's room, my parents' room, sorry, had a TV in it. And I was just watching Bring It On, and I had my little dog. And my dad was at home, but he was downstairs with a friend. So him and his friend were downstairs. And the door was shut because the TV was on. I didn't want to like bother my parents, my dad. So the door was shut, and we had one of those door handles. You know the ones that you grab like this and then you turn? Not the round handles, but the ones that you grab that's like horizontal and you grab it and you turn it. So I had one of those handles. Anyways, the door was completely shut. It was winter time, so all the windows were closed. There was no breeze coming in. There was nothing. So I'm in the room and we're just like, I think it was the commercial time, and I'm playing with my dog. We had a little Jack Russell named Kobe. So I'm playing with my dog, and all of a sudden, like, I look at the door, like right when I looked at the door, all I see is it turning and then opening. Like, it didn't just like open, it turned and then it opened. So you know how sometimes your door is closed but it's not really closed? It's like kind of closed, but that little latch hasn't really clicked, so it kind of swings open. So no, this was clicked and the door went like this and it opened, and I actually witnessed the door handle just turning. And then I called down to my dad. I'm like, Dad, were you just upstairs? And he's like, no, I'm downstairs with my friend, which makes sense because I don't know why he would come upstairs if his friend's downstairs unless he wanted to grab something. But, I mean, why would he come upstairs, open the door, and then, like, leave? Do you know what I mean? Like, my dad wasn't that type of person, so he's just like, no. And my dad's not the kind of person who's just like, oh, I pranked you. No, he's not like that at all. He's just, like, a very, like no BS, like, very serious guy. So, he would never do that. So he's like, no, I was downstairs. I'm downstairs with my friend, and I'm just like, oh my God. So, my sister and my mom get home that night, and I tell them all about it. And my sister's like, like, get out of here, like, you're just imagining things. My mom, of course, says, no, it's just your imagination, don't worry, whatever, this and that. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not sleeping in my room tonight, just so you know. I said that to my mom. I shafted my dad downstairs to sleep on the couch, and I told her, I'm like, I'm sleeping in your room tonight, because that's just not happening. I literally witnessed a door opening by itself. I don't think so. So, my mom is like, okay, that's fine. So again, me and my mom shut the door, and we're in bed, and I'm about to fall asleep, and we both witness the door handle going like this and opening, and I'm like, I freaking told you. And I'm like, I told you I wasn't crazy. And my mom started freaking out. She's like, oh my God, you were right, like, it actually happened. So we told my sister. My sister was like, oh, so you're not crazy. Yeah. That was one of the things. That was the first day that I realized, okay, you know what, something's kind of weird here. A second thing that happened in that particular house is I was in my sister's room, and I think I was like getting trained. You know how sisters, like, they share clothes? Well, not, I wouldn't say share. I would always steal her clothes and she'd get upset. But you know how sisters share clothes? So I was in her room and I was trying on some of her clothes. She wasn't home. I was home by myself. My parents were at work. I'm in the room. I'm trying on the clothes. And then literally in my ear, it was as if the person or entity or whatever the heck this was right over here going, and I'm like, what the hell was that? Oh my God. I was just freaking out. And it was literally like the person was right here. And I'm like, no, like, that's not okay. That is so creepy. So again, like, I had to pretend like these things weren't happening, because if I did not, I would lose it. And I was already starting to lose it because I couldn't sleep well in this place. And the thing is, you guys, I could tell it wasn't a good spirit or entity or whatever it was. It was malevolent. It really, really was. I could just feel it. Like I said before, I always felt energies. I always knew whether I could feel like a negative energy or a positive energy. I felt it before. And this is one of those situations where I really felt like, you know what? This thing, not only was it negative, it was actively trying to bother me. And I knew it. And one of the places I would feel the energy the most, unfortunately, was my bedroom. So I knew it was like, it was bothering me, or something had happened to that spirit in my bedroom, or entity, or whatever. I don't know what it was, still to this day. Anywho, so that's what happens in my sister's room. And then one day, my sister, as you know, as you can tell, my sister was skeptical about this stuff. So when my sister comes to me and says this particular thing, which I'll tell you in a second, I start thinking, okay, so I'm not crazy. My sister tells me, she's like, I was in my room, and she's like, from the corner of my eye, I see a man walking into your bedroom. And I was like, like, you can imagine how freaked out I was when she said this to me, because it had confirmed everything that I was feeling, that there is something in this house and it's in my room. So she actually saw this thing going into my room. So I guess it was a spirit. I don't know. I'm assuming it was a spirit since it was a man, you know? Could it have been a demon that was taking the shape of a man? Maybe. The thing is, my sister, I know she wouldn't have lied to me about something like that, because she knew how much I was struggling with being so scared. Now, is my sister a jerk for telling me when I was already scared? Perhaps. However, she told me, and she was also young, I was young, she told me that she saw this. I believed her. I still believe her. But yeah, it was just, that was another instance. One of the things that happened in this house, one of the other things that happened in this house, sorry, was while I was playing the Ouija board, we had a red candle. So here's the thing. I threw away my Ouija board at one point. As I was having all these things happen to me, I ended up saying, you know what? I've had it. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm throwing this Ouija board away. After I threw away the Ouija board, maybe about 3-4 months later, my friend's like, oh, do you still have the Ouija board? And I'm like, no, I don't. And we were just like goofing around. And I'm like, you know what? Why don't we make one? Oh my God, you guys. I don't know why. I really believe that if you buy a Ouija board, it's one thing. But if you make it with your own hands, it's so much more powerful. I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know what the reason is. I literally can't even explain myself. But I feel like making your own Ouija board is not a good idea. Maybe it's like the energy that you put into it. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but that's just a feeling that I have. I made this Ouija board, and the spirits that would come through. Like, they were aggressively coming through. It wasn't like that the bought one that I had by the friggin' Parker Brothers. It wasn't that one. It was one that I made myself. So we had lit one of the red candles that I had that my mom had bought. I lit it and I put it on top of the top left-hand corner of the Ouija board. And as we're playing the game, you've seen how candle wax behaves, right? This was a red candle, and as we were playing, this spirit was being weird. It wasn't answering our questions. It was giving us odd answers, as if it didn't want to be there, you know? And it was just giving us stupid answers. And as we're playing, we don't even notice. We see that the candle, the red candle, like the wax of it, had come down from the candle itself, but it was coming down through the Ouija board in this weird, like, river-like way. And then it looked like a river of blood going right across the board. And for some reason, we didn't even notice until it was there. And we're like, what the heck? That is so weird. Like, there was a river of, like, this red candle wax just going down, and it just looked like blood. And it's not like the board wasn't uneven or anything. It was completely flat. So how is this happening? And how did we not even notice this? Like, we looked down, we're like, what the heck? It was weird. Anyways, so as we're playing, that same time that we're playing that board, we have our hands, it was me and my friend, we have our hands on the board very, very lightly. I could see my friend's hands, her fingers were like this. They were like this on the board and barely touching, and I could see it. But for some reason, you could hear the little triangle thing was like scraping the board. It was just so, like, you could tell someone was, like, hard on this, what is it called, the little triangle? I don't know what they call the triangle. They were on this triangle thing, and they were, like, pressing down, and you could hear it, and we were just like, oh my God, like, there's a spirit's hands actively on this board, and he's just, like, pressing down. And this was the same spirit that was just, like, not having it. He was not giving us good answers. He was just, like, giving us answers that just did not make sense. And usually when that happens, that means the ghost does not want to be there. The spirit does not want to be there. They don't want you bothering them, and they're pissed. That's usually what that means when they're just not giving you correct answers. Another situation that I had, we moved into this house. It was the second house that we lived in. And when we moved in, everything was fine. I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel any presences. Nothing was bothering me. Everything was okay. My mom went and bought these chairs. They were absolutely hideous. But she bought these chairs, and they were gold, and they were like, they were just really out there, okay? She bought chairs for our house, which is like a mid-sized house, but she bought chairs that would belong at like a museum. They felt so horrible to sit on. It was absolutely awful, but they looked even worse. It did not fit. Anyways, no one ever sat on them, ever. They were in the dining room, and we just always left those chairs alone. Ever since she brought those chairs home, I always felt a presence in that area, in that dining room. I really feel like those chairs brought something with them. Some entity was attached to those chairs. But you guys, it wasn't a bad one. The entity did not want to bother us. It was just attached to the chairs. I've never felt that before, where I can sense an entity, but the entity is literally not bothering me at all. I didn't feel anything negative from it. In fact, I didn't really care that it was there. I really didn't. But I knew that those chairs had something attached to them. Why do I know this? Because every time, so after this house that we lived in, my parents got a divorce after this, and these chairs went and stayed with my sister in her basement, unfortunately for my sister. So these chairs went and stayed with my sister in the basement, and there was a point where I was living in her basement, and I felt the same energy with those chairs. It was still there. So one of the first things that happened to me in this particular house is I was in my bedroom, and I was sitting on the floor, and I was doing a project, and I was almost finished, and the door was closed, but the light in the hallway, was on. So you could see the light from under the door. You know how you can see the light from under the door whenever the door is closed? That's what was happening. That's what I was seeing. So I'm just like doing my project, whatever. And then I hear footsteps outside of my bedroom. And it was like loud footsteps, like actual footsteps. And I'm like, okay. And then I look and I see, I'm like, I wonder if someone's here. And I look and I see underneath the door, I can see like footprints. Not footprints, a shadow walking by, going into like my parents' room. So I'm like, okay, like someone's out there. And I was excited because my project was like pretty much finished and I wanted to show them, my family. So I run outside and I'm like, I open the door and I see my parents' bedroom's lights are off and there's no one here. Everyone's downstairs. And I'm like, okay. It was really, really odd because I was positive that this was like a family member walking by my room. That's how sure I was. I was 100% sure because I literally heard the footsteps. Then, you know how sometimes your house creaks? This wasn't that. I heard footsteps. And then I looked and my suspicion of someone being upstairs was confirmed because I saw footsteps. Like, I saw shadows of someone walking by. Anyways, that was the first thing that happened. This house, it didn't feel like anything negative. It was like, I didn't care that happened. I didn't care that I saw footsteps and like I confirmed pretty much that there was something upstairs. It wasn't as scary to me as it was in the other house. That's the reality of it. The other house was, you could tell it was a malevolent spirit. You could tell it was malicious. But this house, the spirits were just there. Second thing that happened, this is where it gets really, really creepy. So it's about 2 in the morning. My whole family is upstairs and they're asleep. I've confirmed this. I can see everyone. Everyone's doors are open, so I can see that they're all in their rooms. 2 in the morning, all I hear is downstairs from the kitchen, I hear cabinets opening and closing slowly. Like, they weren't banging or anything. It wasn't like doosh, doosh, doosh. It wasn't like that. It was just opening and closing as if someone was looking for something. And then I went closer to the stairwell. So from the stairwell, you can't see the kitchen, but you can, like, because the kitchen is directly under where I was standing, but you can't really see it, but you can hear much better from the stairwell. So I'm standing at the stairwell and I can hear, I'm like, oh, this is for sure drawers opening and shutting. Like, I wasn't imagining things. That is what was happening. I'm not going downstairs to check. Forget that. Like, nobody's doing that. Okay, so if you thought that was the scary part, it's not. Here's the creepy part. At 3 in the morning, I come out of my bedroom because I smell my favorite food. My favorite food is this Iranian dish called ghormeh sabzi. It's this herbal stew. If you are Iranian or know an Iranian who cooks this, you know this food has a very strong, distinct smell. It smells amazing. It smells like heaven. But it's just so overwhelming that you can't mistake it for anything. The smell was so strong, like I could literally just see it being cooked in my mind's eye. It was just so weird. So then I'm like, that is so scary. It's as if someone's trying to draw me downstairs. Smell her favorite food. Now here is where I start getting scared. This doesn't sound like something a spirit does. This manipulation with smell and stuff like that, that's demonic. I do not think that this was the spirit. I think that this was a demon downstairs trying to get me to come down. And that's why I'm getting goosebumps right now. Like, that's where I get freaked out, because I'm like, this isn't the same spirit. This isn't the same entity that has been in our house this whole time. This was something else. And it was 3 in the morning. And you know how I was always being like, I always draw these things to me either because I played the Ouija board or just that's just what my life is meant to be like. But this thing was drawing me out. That was one of the scariest things that has occurred in that particular house. There was a time in the basement of that house where I woke up and I see this light traveling all around my head, just an orb. I don't know what that was. It didn't feel negative though. It didn't feel negative. It wasn't, I don't know, it didn't bother me. I just went back to sleep. But that happened as well. There's one last thing that I will talk about of things that have happened. I was in Iran and I was sleeping in my cousin's room. The door was closed and I didn't have my phone with me. So I'm at my cousin's house and we're sleeping on the floor. We're in my cousin's bedroom and we have the door closed. And before we go to sleep, all of a sudden, I feel this energy. And I know exactly where this energy is coming from. The energy was literally right in front of the closet door, and it's just standing there. I will tell you guys this. Never in my life have I felt an entity so malicious, so malevolent in my life to this day. That entity that was in that room that night, I couldn't sit down. I couldn't lie down. I didn't know what to do with myself. I knew it was there and I knew exactly what part of the room it was in. And I'm like, listen, there's something in your room. It's standing right over there. I don't know what this is, whether this is a spirit that's upset, but this particular entity has it in for me specifically. This isn't just something that's roaming around your house. This entity has it in for me. And I'm like, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sit. I couldn't do anything. Like, literally, I felt like this thing was everywhere around me and wanted to attack me or was trying to actively torture me with its presence. I started crying and I was freaking out so much. I kept praying, and my cousin's like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, there's something in your room and it won't leave me alone. And she's like, you're crazy, what are you talking about? She thought I was going insane. All of a sudden I started smelling fire, as if there was a campfire right next to me. I started smelling it and I'm like, oh my god. And I remember I was watching the exorcism of, wow, I can't say that word. This is not good. With my line of work, I should be able to say exorcism. So I just watched this movie maybe about a year ago or something. I don't remember. When did Exorcism of Emily Rose come out? Because I was 18 when this particular thing happened to me. Let's see here. Exorcism of Emily Rose, 2005. Okay, so then 2005 I was 16. So 2 years ago I had seen The Exorcism of Emily Rose. So I knew about the whole fire and 3 a.m. thing. So there you have it. It came out 2005, and I remember I watched it in 2005. It wasn't like Bring It On where I watched it like three years later on the freaking TV. No, I had watched it in theaters. Believe me, a movie like this with me and my interest in stuff like this, believe you me, I did watch this in theaters. Okay, so now that we figured that out, alright, so I am basically sitting there and I'm smelling this fire, and I turn to my cousin and I tell her, I'm like, go check outside, because remember, we didn't have any watches, I didn't have my phone, she didn't have her phone, and the door was closed. We had no way of telling what time it was. I look at her, I'm like, I smell fire. And I'm like, how much do you want to make a bet that it's 3 in the morning right now? And she's just like, why? And then I explained to her why. And she's like, no, it's not. There's no way it's 3 in the morning. You're wrong. I'm like, go check. Go check right now. So she goes and looks, and it's 3 a.m. It's literally 3 a.m. And she comes back in, and I see that her face is ghost white. And I'm like, it's 3 a.m., isn't it? And she's like, yeah. And that was my, like, confirmation that, you know what? This was a demon. It's my version of confirmation. Maybe not your version of a confirmation. My version of a confirmation, this was a demon. It was, I'll have to tell you guys, sorry. This is one of the most scariest, if not scariest, instances of my life when it comes to, like, paranormal stuff. The way that this entity made me feel, I will not get over. Like, and then after maybe about 45 minutes, it was gone. And I felt the energy go away. So, that was pretty much the worst thing ever. Okay guys, I hope you guys enjoyed my experiences, my stories about the different hauntings that I've had to deal with. Unfortunately, I actually had to live through these things. However, it's really fun to talk about and to tell you guys. I hope you guys had fun as well. Please do me the greatest of favors and subscribe to my channel. Help me out, help me grow. I love talking about this stuff. I love making content about the paranormal and mysteries involving the paranormal, as my name says. So it would be great if you comment, like, and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in.